Good afternoon. So since we missed our tour this morning, I would like to invite you to a virtual tour of Jerusalem and on the way to talk about archaeology and digitizing. I also teach digital humanities at the Haifa University, so when I need to explain my students the concept of story maps, I created this short demo about the so-called third wall of Jerusalem. So this is the wall was defending Jerusalem in the 1st century CE, and this is the wall that actually was there when during the siege of Titus in the year 70. The siege did not end well. So let us start from the northeastern corner of the standing wall. Presumably here the third wall continued northward and into the Babazar neighborhood. Indeed, a tower was found in the somewhere at this spot. I couldn't locate it precisely, so it's only approximate location of the tower. From there, the wall turned west, and will follow it to this place of the first well-documented excavation of the third wall. It was conducted by Professor Sukenik and Meyer of the Hebrew University. The spot today is at the courtyard of the Albright Institute of Archaeological Research, and the legend said that the location of the building was adjusted to the so it will not stand above the wall but next to it. So let us stay for a second in this beautiful garden of Albright and talk about the documents that I presented before. They belong to the collection to the archive of the Department of the Antiquities of the Mandatory Palestine. Luckily to ask, the archive was left in the department, the archive room in 1948 and survived there complete and organized until these days. The archive was digitized several years ago, and it's partly available online. The collection is fascinating, and it contains much more than archaeological data. For instance, in this file about the third wall, we have plans like this that show that proposed adjustments of the line of the street to the line of the wall, so it not to damage the wall too much. Or this plan that shows the wall relatively to these houses that were standing there in 1934, and the houses are referred to by the name of the owners. So we have another like historical level of the same place. So this collection is digitized, as I say, but apart from uploading it online, I think the next step would be adding an engine which would allow georeferencing all these plans to the map of modern Jerusalem, so we could have a diachronic view of the city. Now we continue, we leave the Albright Institute and we cross the Salahuddin Street and continue west to the place of the first large Israeli excavation of the third wall, which was before the construction of the Engineering Corp Street in Heli Handasa. in the 70s, the excavation discovered about 45 meters of this wall. And then later, when the street was turned into what was called the Highway 1 in Jerusalem in the 90s, another fragment of the wall was found on the other side of the street. So these two last excavations are documented, and the records are kept in the scientific archive of the Israel Antiquities Authority, which we are digitizing now. This collection is unique for several reasons, and I will mention only one. Usually in most of the places in the world, at least in the old world, depositing archaeological records with the authorities was not obligatory until very recently. So here we have this in this collection we have records that start from in 1948 and go till this day, which is already like 70 years. And if we add to it the records of the British Mandate, we have 100 years of archaeological activity into one country, which is a very unique thing. The core archive is in numbers, is here, it's huge. And when I say files, I mean physical files. So the material which requires digitizing. We started working on this in 2020, and the project is funded jointly by the IAA and the Ministry of Jerusalem and Heritage. It's an industrial size project, but and I must reflect to the yesterday session, saying that we do return the archive to its original state after a long workflow of cataloging, scanning, and quality control. But digitizing is not the goal. It's only the first step in creation a digital archive, which is accessible and stable. So I would like to mention several steps that can be taken during digitizing in order to create this, to have this great archive in the end. First, it should be findable, and for this, it is good to have every resource identified with some ID from the beginning, which later could be added to a domain, and so could be found, could have it persistent identifier that could be found on the web. And then, of course, the metadata, which should be mappable or comparable to one of the standard metadata schemes. Well, also, well, we have a really long list of metadata fields, descriptive and administrative and the technical metadata. But in the end, like the basic fields can mappable to the 15 elements of the Dublin core. The archive should be accessible, and since digitizing and building the archive is it's a long process, two things can be done on the way. First, it's a good time to learn your audience, because while you're digitizing and people are still coming and writing emails to see the archives, it's good time to learn what they are looking for and what kind of questions they are asking, so that this could be implemented later in the user interface and the search engine. Another thing is it's time to learn better your materials. because literally every document go through our hands now, so we can see what's there, and they could, for instance, create the data access policies according to this. In order to have it, to make it interoperable with other sources, it should be described using a good thesaurus, a well-established vocabulary, and of course, the question comes which one to use, because there are many. There are several answers, and in the end, everything is good as long as this thesaurus you are using is mapped to one, to at least one vocabulary which is not local. I wouldn't say global, there is no such a thing, but at least used across disciplines and beyond your local community. And the last quality, I would say, I want to talk about usable. So it's not easy thing to the beginning, make it possible is first using stable and file using good file. All this done in the end, which is fair data. So discovered so our last stop at the point there, the last section, like latest section of the wall was discovered, which is at the Russian compound area, where the new building of the Bezalel Academy is building at the moment, is being constructed. So according to the sources, in the area, in this area where was an octagonal tower from where the wall would turn south, the tower wasn't found, but what was found is actually not the wall itself, but its foundation. Here is the thing. Well, it's not there anymore, but of course there are records of the excavation which will be submitted to the archive, and it will be published eventually. And there is this video, so another documentation. But I think we can do better to preserve this heritage site in the memory and on the plan of Jerusalem of today. And we could, I mean, in our digital age, all options are open. It could be a line on the ground, or a virtual line, or augmented. It can be done in augmented reality. These all options are open. Thank you.